Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, the lovely Rex.
Hello.
And here we are, hot off of the spooky season, where we did a full month of weekly episodes.
Whew, a lot of editing.
Yeah. It's almost like that's still the case because we just, this episode's going to come out before it, but we did a bonus episode last week, and we're doing this episode, and we might squeeze out one more before the end of the month. We'll see.
Ooh, who knows?
So it's almost another monthly, or another weekly month. So a lot of work we've been doing, especially on your end, doing the post.
The bonus is a good 3-hour recording, so
a lot of content coming. So, how have you been? What's new with you?
Pretty good. Last main episode we did was on Ring from 1998. And since then, I've taken a bit of a dive into that franchise, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
Since pretty much the start of this month, I've watched Ring 2 from the Japanese Ring 2, Spiral, Sadako 3D, Sadako 3D 2, and 2019 Sadako.
Awesome. So that means
I've seen all the Japanese films with the exception of Ring Kanzenban and Sadako DX.
What about Ring well, you said films, because I'm pretty sure, isn't there a TV show called Ring the Final Chapter?
Yeah, that's why I specified films.
Okay. Yeah. So, nice. So you're just missing the 95 TV movie, the new movie that just came out, and did you say that was it?
Yeah, for the Japanese series at least. Obviously I've got I've got like the knockoff films if you want to count those.
No, they don't count.
Of those is Japanese. They don't count. But yeah, I got The Ring 2 and Rings, as well as The Ring Virus left, alongside the 2 Japanese films left.
Gotcha. And you'll have the short film Rings from 2002.
Ah, yes, that too.
So, okay. So you've been on a Ring...
Yeah, so much so that I am now about 60 pages into the book.
Oh, wow. How's the book?
It's I'm quite enjoying it, actually. It's definitely made me realize that how streamlined the 1998 film is in comparison.
Really?
Yeah, like it's pretty much all of the general events that I'm up to in the novel have happened. Like, I'm up to Asakawa has just watched the tape, and I think in the next chapter is when Ryuji gets introduced. Ryuji and Asakawa are not ex-husband, ex-wife in this film.
Isn't it 2 females?
No, Asakawa is a man.
Okay.
In the novel.
So it takes out kind of the love subplot, that the tension there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like Ryuji being like a neglectful father is sort of taken from Asakawa in the novel, which is interesting. Because Asakawa is, and it's interesting as well that I had a little bit more in-depth thoughts on this earlier, but it's kind of I think there's some commentary about the overworking situation in Japan. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but Asakawa is completely taken over by his work in both the film and in the movie as well.
In real life, Koji Suzuki was trying to be a writer while also being a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that could have just been him reflecting on his life and how crazy it was being both a writer and a school teacher.
Maybe, but I'd say the neglect of not Yoichi, Yoko in the novel, is probably a bit more directly referenced or directly pointed out in the novel, whereas the film is it's if you pay attention, you'll definitely notice it. Mm-hmm. But if you're not really paying too much attention, you could easily miss it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited and curious to see how this goes because I'm hoping to read Spiral and the third book, Loop, mm-hmm. After this. And the interesting thing with Loop is that it is all of the novels have had some sort of adaptation except for Loop. Movie adaptation, I should say. Loop has apparently been adapted into a video game very loosely.
I've heard Loop is the most sci-fi of them all.
Interesting.
But I would like to maybe one day cover the books. So maybe we can go even more in depth at a future point where we talk about books.
Hopefully by that time the last book, Tide, will finally have an English release. Because I think that is the only one I think that does not have an English release.
Interesting. I didn't even know.
And that's the one that Sadako 2019 is based on.
Really?
Yeah. Sadako 3D is based on the fourth book, which is S. Fourth book, not including Birthday.
Gotcha. So, besides Ring, have you watched anything else, or have you just been all Ring?
Not really anything else, Toku. It's just been getting through the Ring franchise at the moment.
Gotcha. See, unfortunately...
Wanting to die more and more from them as I went on.
Unfortunately, I haven't had any time. I've been working crazy hours, and they actually just extended my hours by 1 hour each day. So I work 5 days a week, 9 hours already. So now it's going to be 10 hours for 5 days a week.
Bro, I would not live through that.
plus driving, which is about 20 minutes from my house to where I work. So there's an extra 20 minutes a day, 5 days. So that's 100 minutes. So there's another hour and a half. Plus,
I could not live through that at all.
Plus, showering, changing clothes, and whatnot. And I get off at 11 o'clock at night. And then I usually have to do my other things after 11. So I don't really have a lot of time right now to watch Toku. And on my days off, I've been cleaning my house. So I've been absolutely nowhere with my Tokusatsu. It was a struggle to crunch in the two versions of the film that we are talking about today, and even then I was really tired through both of them, so I might have nodded off a little bit here and there.
Oh, cheating.
But
cheating on these movies, how could you?
But it's I have been busy, but maybe soon I can slow down. I'm wanting to, once I get my house clean, I'm down to really and honestly the last room I really need to clean through. After this coming Wednesday, I should be pretty well good to go. So Thursday, depending on what my best friend wants to do, I might finally get down and sit and watch some Tokusatsu, because I haven't done that.
You should sit down and watch Sadako 3D.
If I had a copy, I probably would. If I could.
I mean, it's probably the most obviously Tokusatsu of any of the other films.
Fair, but I mean, I've got plenty of stuff I need to watch. And
I can't wait for you to watch Sadako 3D and 3D too. Bro, those movies made me really appreciate Sadako vs. Kayako.
Well, I haven't seen that one either.
Ironically.
We'll have to see what I think of those. If those Setiko 3D2 doesn't have a physical, neither does Setiko versus Kayako, but Setiko 3D does. So I do plan on watching that one. But I have been working on some stuff, and if you keep your eyes out, you will see me appear in some side shows, and a certain magazine as per usual. But that's really all.
Wonder what that could be.
Yeah, right. But I will say this: there's a lot of exciting stuff coming. I know I keep saying that, but there is. Rex knows about most of it.
Yes.
And I'm excited, but...
We're producing Takashi Yamazaki's film. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
We've got the distribution rights.
We're the brokers. We're going to make the deals. We're going to work with Janus Films on.
We're the new we're the Henry Saperstein duo.
Yeah, yes. Rex is primarily working on the Australian side, and I'm working on the United States and Canadian side.
He's doing that. I'm doing like the whole Commonwealth.
Yeah, we're going to be the next big. American Westerners, not American, because Rex is not American.
We're international pictures.
Yes. We're not American we are just international. Or we could. What if we put AIP, and it's just a international picture? A meaning America or Australia.
Bruh.
Boom. We're geniuses. AIP 2.0, baby.
We could just have our different branches be American International Pictures, Australian International Pictures.
But we would have to put 2 for American because there's already an AIP.
These things happen. Let's commit fraud and pretend to be AIP returning from the grave.
Yeah, I'll try and do that. Even though their entire library is owned by DreamWorks. Huh. But I do have a little game we can play. We tried to do this before, and I feel like it's going to be a disaster, but we're going to try and figure out a game we can play so it's not just 2 talking mouths being boring, because we're obviously boring. There's nothing we say that's interesting or exciting.
Mm-hmm. What have we ever offered to the viewers?
Honestly, nothing. But we have a game today called Fact or Opinion. The way this game goes is Rex and I have both 5 statements, and we're going to read them off to each other, and we're going to have to figure out of the 5 statements, 2 of them are not factual and simply opinions, while the other 3 are facts. So we're going to have to figure out which ones are the opinions. Do you want me to go first, Rex, or do you want to go first?
Sure, you go first.
Okay. Are you ready? This is going to be a difficult one.
Oh, no. Yes.
You ready? Okay. Number 1. The velociraptors from Jurassic Park sound like turtles mating. Number 2. Spider-Man is the most popular superhero. Number 3. Ultraman is the most popular character in Japan. 4. The Simpsons last more than the MCU. And 5. Critically, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith is the best of the Star Wars prequels.
Damn. You went all movie themed.
I did.
Well, I know the Velociraptor one is a fact.
Damn. I thought I was going to get you on that one.
No, I already knew that fact.
Oh.
Like, I can verify its validity.
What, have you listened to Turtles Mating?
Yes, I used to have some very interesting friends.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything to
that. So what were the other 4 again, sorry? Outside of, like, the Star Wars one?
So, Spider-Man is the most popular superhero. Ultraman is the most popular character in Japan. The Simpsons last more than the MCU. Critically, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequels.
I'm going to say Ultraman is a superhero, you said, right?
Ultraman is the most popular character in Japan.
Oh, opinion.
Okay, there's one.
So Spider-Man, Star Wars, and... Sorry, my brain died. What was the other one?
The Simpsons last more than the MCU.
The Simpsons last more?
Yes.
What, like it'll last longer?
The Simpsons last more than the MCU. I'm not giving you anything else but that. I deliberately picked hard wording for some of these.
Pin... I feel like the Spider-Man one sounds right, because Spider-Man definitely is among the most popular heroes. Like, because you got, like, Batman, Superman, Iron Man, Spider-Man. I don't know if the X-Men would be as popular nowadays as they used to be. But Spider-Man's always been big. So I'm going to say fact, ? On Spider-Man.
Okay.
Because, like,
that is correct.
Okay. Star Wars being... Was it the most critically successful, did you say?
Critically, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequels.
Oh, for prequels. I mean, yeah, almost definitely. I'm going to say that's a fact.
Is that your final answer?
Is it wrong?
That is incorrect. So,
what?
Based off of critical consensus, based off of Rotten Tomatoes, critically, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, is the best of the prequels.
Oh my god.
Then it's Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and then it's Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Oh my god.
I didn't say the prequel trilogy, I said of the prequels.
You mongrel.
I said I picked specific wording for these.
Did I ask?
So
you're a mongrel, honestly.
So Rex, you'll get half a point for that one.
So what? I'm at like 2.5 points.
Well,
or is the Ultraman one correct?
The Ultraman one was correct. So I guess you 2.5 points. Yes,
3.5 actually, because Spider-Man and the Velociraptors.
Well, if it's 1.5, it'd be 2.5. Or no, I guess it would be 3.5. Yeah, you're right.
Don't try gaslighting me.
3.5 out of 5.
How dare you try gaslighting me? I'm offended.
Okay. What do you got?
So the last one was Simpsons the last longer.
Well, you can't guess anymore. You can't guess anymore because you've...
I guess that would be a fact, yeah.
And that is true. The Simpsons runs 184 hours.
Oh, that's what you mean by lost.
I think it's 484. I'd have to double check, but runtime-wise, The Simpsons lasts longer than the MCU right now.
How many seasons is that? I know it's over
38.
Oh my god, it's 38?
Yep, and 39 has been also picked up, so it'll have 39 seasons.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So what do you got for me, Rex?
Alrighty, so let's see. Shin Godzilla is the best Godzilla movie. Scotland loves unicorns. You shouldn't say Dr. Seuss. If a penny dropped from the top of the Empire State Building, you would die. Twitter's $8 verification is an objectively poor system.
Okay, so I'm going to get it out of the way. 4 is a fact, and 2 is a fact.
So Scotland loves unicorns, and the penny dropped would kill you are facts?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I know you, so 1 is obviously an opinion.
You see,
because
I neglected in my wording.
Oh, you did it! Oh, wow! So, because financially speaking, audience-wise, it did not. Oh, because it won Best Picture.
The awards, yes.
Okay. So 3 and 5. What were 3 and 5?
You shouldn't say Dr. Seuss and Twitter's $8 verification is an objectively poor system.
So I'm gonna say 5 is. Wait. Okay. So you have. Oh wait. Both of those are the opinions. Here's why. Twitter's whole idea of the $8 system is to prevent scammers, which in theory will work because they can't pay for those bots to be bots and do what they're supposed to be doing with the verified system. So objectively, it's not a bad idea, but if we're talking just practically, it is. And then you shouldn't say Dr. Seuss. I don't even know what that means.
So, Scotland loves unicorns is a fact because it's their national animal.
Yep.
Did you know that already?
I've definitely heard that one before.
Interesting. I never have. You shouldn't say Dr. Seuss because the actual pronunciation is Dr. Seuss or something like that.
So it's a fact?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. You said a penny dropped from the top of the Empire State Building would kill you?
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, that's false, so it's an opinion.
Interesting.
It would hurt you, but it wouldn't kill you.
Interesting.
Because I don't know if it's actually been tested, but there was, I believe, the velocity that it would be traveling at, even if a penny was traveling at the speed of light, I don't think it can pierce your skin. Or at least not in a way that would kill you. And then Twitter's 8 verification is an opinion. So you only got like one right.
Did you say right? I got 2 right. I got 2 out of 5. I got 2 out of 5.
So on your end,
I guess you win. Okay.
I'm the proud winner of Kaiju Conversation's first factor opinion game.
Yeah, this was kind of stupid.
It was, but oh well. I still got my prize.
I was gonna say, what's your prize? Tell me, what did you win? I'll wait.
Pride.
Oh, whoop-de-doo. Anyways, moving on from that, whatever that was.
Who knows?
Let us know if you want us to do that again, or if you have an idea for a better game. We're always looking for recommendations. So if you guys have something, let's hear it.
He's desperate.
I am. I'm not a fun person, and all the stuff I had just didn't sound right. But moving on from that, man, we've kind of blown through this really fast. I just realized we did our intro, we talked about what we've been doing, and we did the game, and it's only been like 35 minutes.
Damn.
Usually it takes us like 40 to 50 minutes to get through this opening.
Hey, maybe you'll get some sleep.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen because I have to drive home. And even if we stopped right now, I still wouldn't get home till about 5:15. But that's considering
it's the
I don't get
that counts.
It is the thought that counts. Thank you so much, Rex. Your contribution is forever appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, we could talk a bit about the movie that we are covering, the movie that nobody obviously knows what we're covering.
Not even I know what we're covering.
Right? Like
I've watched it.
It's such a... Watched what?
I don't know.
Me neither. I feel like I have amnesia because I don't even remember what we're covering.
Are we even covering a movie? I'm not sure.
I think so. Hopefully the audience can help us, even though obviously they don't read the title or look at the square. So they are in the exact same boat as we are. They have no idea what
So you know what I said about children not watching this not watching this podcast?
Uh-huh.
We are appealing entirely to the Dora the Explorer demographic.
Can you help us? Hey, audience listener, tell us what our title says. Awesome!
Godzilla!
No, we're not supposed to say it, Rex. We wait for them to say it.
That was them. I didn't say a thing.
We're covering that movie. That's awesome.
Yay.
Great job. Let's sing a song to celebrate. Mosuraya, Donankazahuya, Hinomu.
I'm a bigger fan of family-friendly news song, but anyways.
What?
That's your jam. Nothing.
Oh, it's okay. So yeah, thank you, audience listeners. That totally said what our title was.
And definitely didn't click off.
Yeah, for the last few listeners listening, our 2 listeners, me and Rex, because Rex has to listen.
That's a high estimate.
2, you have to listen to them to edit, and I use these to go to bed. I'm not even joking. I'm not. Look. There was like a day last week where I was like, I wonder how the Ju-On episode came out. So I put on my headphones. I listened to it because I like the fact that we don't sound like we're talking through potatoes. I was like, "Ooh, this is pretty good." And like 5 minutes in, I kid you not, of me talking, I was fast asleep. And I
can't tell if you were bored of yourself or if...
No, I've been told that my voice is like, it's very, I don't know if soothing is the right word, but
definitely not.
I've had, my best friend has fallen asleep to me just talking to him. One of my old friends, she and I were on the phone, and this actually happened twice with 2 different friends. I was on the phone with them, not at the same time. And both of them fell asleep while talking to me. And one of them, she was like, your voice is just so soothing, like it just makes me really tired. When I'm just talking and it's all the same thing, like sit back and unpack. You may be here a while, but now...
You should narrate an audiobook.
I know I should. Get me on like Nature. The wild penguin starts his journey through the Arctic Circle. Through his journey, he will have to endeavor multiple different feats of strength, such as swimming away from sea lions, enduring the harsh weather, and humankind. I'd be great. I'd be perfect. Get me to do the audiobook for Godzilla King of the Monsters so I can get everybody asleep by the second page. It'd be great. And then they'd be like, dude, this book knocks me out. Yeah, it does me too, except it doesn't make me fall asleep. It literally knocks me out for how horrible.
I'm gonna knock you out.
Stop.
What?
Stop. What? Isn't that a song that was in one of the ads or something?
Yes.
Oh my god. Don't remind me of that one.
Yeah, it was the one that showed that spoiler character off.
Burning Godzilla?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Fire Godzilla, actually, according to Playmates.
Burning Godzilla, according to literally everyone else.
Critical Mass Godzilla for basing it off of what it does like Godzilla Unleashed.
Yeah, but since when were the video games relevant?
Never. And if you want to hear us talk about video games, let me tell you, there is a bonus episode coming out talking about Gigabash's announcement, and there will be a bonus minisode on the YouTube channel where we sit for like 15 minutes and I'm a nihilist about video games. Rex is totally going to post those pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Whenever they're finished in the editing bay.
Yes. Which has taken a long time.
Shut up.
No. Make me. You can't make
me.
Okay. You can't make
Maybe not here.
Oh. in the editing bay. So, yes, we are.
I could just end the recording right here. I'll make
God.
It all entirely myself.
Oh, God. Then they could never fall asleep because they'd hear your voice.
I mean, they already would have fallen asleep by now.
Because of my voice?
Yeah.
Dang. So Rex is going to do the conclusion today. So get ready for that. But yes, we are talking about the 1964 film Mothra Godzilla, also known as Mothra vs. Godzilla, also released in the United States as Godzilla vs. the Thing or Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Yes, not to be confused with the 1992 film Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Also known as Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we are celebrating Godzilla's birthday this month by covering our next Godzilla movie. It's been a while since our last one. Our last one was March of 2021, I believe.
Oh dear God!
Where we covered Godzilla.
Long time coming.
No, we did the 5th anniversary for 2014, but that wasn't like a full blown episode. That was more of a retrospective.
Mm-hmm.
But Godzilla vs. Kong was the last one we covered, which I think was April. It might have been April of 2021, but that was with a special guest host, Michael Hamilton from the Kaiju Ramen Media and Kaiju Weekly podcast, Power Trip podcast. Before then, it was the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla you and I had covered.
Was it really that long ago? Wow.
Yeah, because we are going in order, so... It had to be King Kong versus Godzilla, and that came out.
What Godzilla film will cover next?
No clue. But we're finally getting back into Godzilla here, covering what I read is one of the most critically well-received Showa films.
Oh yeah, one of the more critically well-received films in the series in general, honestly.
Yeah. So Mothra vs. Godzilla, obviously directed by Ishiro Honda, music by Akira Ifukube,
special effects from Tsuburaya.
Eiji Tsuburaya, starring Hiroshi Koizumi, right?
Yep. Akira Takarada and Yuriko Hoshi.
Mm-hmm, with side characters from actors like Yoshio Tsuchiya and...
Kenji
Sahara,
Jun Tazaki, and how could we forget Yumi and Emi Ito?
Yes, the Peanuts.
The Peanuts.
So, stellar classic Toho cast here. You don't really get
much all our A-listers.
Right, the only one it's really missing is Takashi Shimura.
And Akira Kubo, I suppose.
Yeah, but he was a little later on. He
had been introduced in like Matango earlier.
Right. Or like Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah, but Mifune was only ever like the only sort of like kaiju related film he did was Free Treasures.
Right. But like your Honda A-list actors were all here, your Kurosawa not so much.
Mm-hmm.
This was because around this time, I think, specifically Shimura, he was working with Kurosawa and didn't have time to film big roles for Honda. So Mothra vs. Godzilla, he couldn't be involved with whatsoever.
But he did come back later in the year, evidently.
Yes, but we will talk about that one whenever we get to that episode.
Wonder when that could be.
Wonder too. So, where do you want to start talking about this movie?
Probably just a pretty basic summary, I suppose, you know?
Okay, like a synopsis?
Yeah.
Do you want to give that? I could try, but, I'm going to jump around a little bit.
Sure. I mean, I'm probably going to jump around a bit too.
Now, we're not going to spend an hour trying to do this like we did with Ju-On.
No, this isn't Ju-On. The story's a little bit simpler.
A little bit.
Yeah. There's no crazy time jumping around here.
No.
Or is there?
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, so Mothra vs. Godzilla opens with a tsunami that not only drives Godzilla, it tears up a fair bit of some Japanese, was it an oil refining? Whatever, doesn't really matter. Point is, Godzilla is washed up on shore, and so is Mothra's egg soon enough. And then a businessman named Kumayama buys the Mothra egg from the people whose land Mothra's egg appeared on, and tries to exploit the egg, while a group of reporters, 2 reporters and a scientist, try to get the egg back to Mothra. Soon enough, Godzilla makes landfall and
land out. He lands out.
Whatever. Potato. And yeah, soon enough they have to beg for Mothra's forgiveness to get her to fight Godzilla, and she does, but eventually dies. R.I.P. the original Mothra. And as Godzilla continues his rampage, and a group of school children are trapped on an island with Godzilla, the other 2 Mothras the Mothra egg hatches, revealing 2 Mothra larvae, and they fight and defeat Godzilla. The end.
And they all live happily ever after.
Yes. So, up until Godzilla showed up again to destroy Tokyo.
Yes. So, to kind of start off here, I guess I kind of wanted to go and establish kind of where Toho was with Godzilla at this point. Mm-hmm. So prior to this, you had the huge hit King Kong vs. Godzilla. And there was an episode where we cover King Kong vs. Godzilla, so definitely check that one out.
Yes.
To hear our discussion on that one.
Give us views as we give our views.
Yeah. But one of the largest films of all time in Japan. So, fresh off this, they give Honda a gap year to prep for more Godzilla. In that gap year, he did Atragon and Matango, also known as Attack of the Mushroom People. We also have a great episode talking about Matango I would recommend listening to, just so you kind of have that chronological order of how this of what was going on.
Not Atragon yet, though.
Right, we haven't talked about Atragon yet. Eventually we might.
Soon enough.
But I definitely feel like Matango would be relevant because of the Oxbury printer, and then King Kong vs. Godzilla, just simply because, that's the prior Godzilla film. So, Honda had a gap year. In this gap year, Shinichi Sekizawa was given essentially a job to write the next Godzilla movie. He had written King Kong vs. Godzilla. Before this, he did Giant Monster Varan and Mothra. Those were his other 2 kaiju films. He initially wrote what would basically be a direct sequel to Mothra.
First wasn't it continuation King Kong vs. Godzilla?
Yes, yeah. So you had King Kong vs. Godzilla continuation, which was a direct sequel to King Kong vs. Godzilla. That did not go through. There was, I believe,
some aspects from that draft did end up carrying over. to Mothra vs. Godzilla's first draft.
Correct. Most notably, a dead Godzilla washing up on shore at the beginning
originally in the first draft of this film's script, it was Godzilla that washed up ashore, not Mothra's egg.
Correct. And then they would exploit it, and that was found in both treatments for King Kong vs. Godzilla continuation and the original Mothra vs. Godzilla draft.
Except in that, it was a bit more directly connected to the original Mothra, with Roslika, the fictional country from Mothra, being individuals who were from that country were the antagonists,
right?
Rather than just some Japanese entrepreneurs,
right? And the cast for or the initial characters for the original draft for Mothra vs. Godzilla, it was a lot bigger. It was not as personal and like closed, tiny cast. It was a lot bigger. You had the exclusion of the Mothra larvae at the end of the film. Mothra was going to put Godzilla in a cocoon, and Mothra was going to win as an adult. So those are kind of the major things that I picked up on that were like different between the original draft and the final film. Was there anything I really missed besides, obviously the fact that it was a lot closer to being an original sequel to Mothra than a continuation from King Kong vs. Godzilla?
Yeah, no, that's like probably those are the most notable differences between it. Like, you still got the themes of the greed and anti-corporate sort of themes going on in the films, which sort of connects it which makes it thematically a sequel to both King Kong vs. Godzilla and the original Mothra.
Right. Now, I will say, when they started going and doing this film, one thing they really wanted to do was bring Godzilla back to his roots, more of a serious, dark, menacing character, and branch away from that comedic King Kong vs. Godzilla iteration, which I think they do really well. Godzilla is obviously the villain, and obviously the bad guy here.
And it helps that his design is also made to look more threatening than it was in King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Correct. This was a new suit. Nakajima actually had a lot more input in creating the suit than any past suit. One of the things he recommended was putting heels in the bottom of Godzilla's feet so he could walk easier. And then it was also a lot more slim, so he could move better. It was still heavy, and he still lost like 20 pounds per shoot. But
but I don't think that ever changed.
No, it really didn't. But it gave him at least it gave him some input. And that's
a slightly more comfortable experience. And workable too, because the heels helped him keep his footing a bit better.
Right. And this even got Nakajima to grow closer to Eiji Tsuburaya because he had to work with them more one-on-one, which ended up working out pretty well, I would say. And then I think Nakajima would end up really missing Tsuburaya because then, following that, I feel like the suits were less... They were more practical and not what the suit actors needed. I know specifically Satsuma had issues with fiberglass claws for Gigan. They were really heavy. The Hetero suit was just really immobile, stuff like that.
I mean, the whole heels got removed as soon as Nakajima stopped playing Godzilla.
Yeah, he actually said, once I retired, they no longer put heels in Godzilla.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of funny. So, I mean, if we're going to talk about the Godzilla suit, I really like the Godzilla design. I love the 64 suit.
It's one of the best suits from the Showa era in particular.
I would agree. I quite enjoy it. Out of the four 54, 55, and 62, and now 64. I would say it's my favorite, with a close second being 54, and then following that would be 62, and then 55. I quite like 64. I prefer the other one to I prefer 64B to 64A, but I enjoy 64 a lot.
For me, I really like both the 64 and 62 suits, so usually my go-to for saying which one's my favorite, I'll usually say 62, but honestly, it kind of depends day to day, really.
Mm-hmm. Now, where would you put 54, above or below 64?
For me, I prefer 62 and 64 to 54.
Okay. Makes
54, sense. I see sort of like as the baseline.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of 64 and 54, I realized I forgot to mention this was the 10th anniversary of Godzilla. This was 10 years after the original. So this was the first anniversary movie that has now become very well established that at least every 10 years Toho will ensure a movie is put out.
It was such a good anniversary. We had 2 films this year.
We did. It was so nice. But going back to the suit, I did want to note Nakajima did have some issues like seeing in it.
Yeah.
He had so many these problems to the point that he ended up tripping on set a lot, and most famously falling into the Nagoya Castle, which it took them 2 weeks to build that miniature.
Yeah.
Except they built it so well that it didn't.
That it was too strong and wouldn't fall on their first take.
So then they had to fix it and then shoot it again, and then they messed up again, and then they had to fix it, and then they had to build it again, which that took 2 weeks to build. So they had to do like 3 takes. So time consuming, but it adds to the fact that you had to do things perfect on shoots like this, or else it just wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out that you can tell in the film that they're using different takes because it's so sporadic with its editing. That
I noticed that when I was watching the American cut specifically, that scene.
Yeah, because it jumps around a lot for kind of no reason. It's kind of like the same. It's the same like 2 or 3 angles every time.
Like, it looked fine when I watched the Japanese version, but then when I watched the American version, I was like, hey, the editing here's a bit interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that there's quite a few fast-paced cuts throughout the film, especially during the end fight. Not the end fight. Well, I both concluding fights, I noticed there's some pretty fast, sporadic editing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the main titular fight between the adult Mothra and Godzilla has a lot of has a very Raids Again-esque fast motion.
Yes,
which I did not remember at all.
Mm-mm.
Now, like one shot where Godzilla like trips over that I remember being really fast.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't remember the
rest of it being that fast.
It was the same techniques, except this time it was not an accidental thing; it was on purpose.
Mm.
The whole Mothra adult fight with Godzilla is very animalistic. Much like,
which is similar to Raids Again.
Yeah, except this time they had the proper time, and it actually looks pretty decent.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, it's a really good fight, and it's certainly leagues above in choreography to the 1992 fight.
I would even say
I gotta throw jabs at that movie.
I figured you would. I'd even go as far as to say it's way better than Raids Again, because both are kind of similar things. But Mothra, however, Mothra in this film is so lively, she's never been this lively ever since.
Yeah, the only film that in any way compares to how lively she is in this one is 2003.
I would agree with that.
But not the 1992 film.
There's your next jab.
I'm sorry, I just gotta get it out of me.
Even in animation, for like Planet Eater, Mothra wasn't very animated, and
she basically just went forward,
right,
for like 10 seconds, and then it was a silhouette,
right. And then in King of the Monsters, Mothra, she is lively, but she also has kind of that floating motion that...
Yeah, particularly during her Rodan fight.
Yes. So, one thing I will praise this film for is how lively Mothra is.
Mm-hmm.
And the effects in this film are really good. This was the first Godzilla film to use the Oxbury. The first film being
Matango.
Yeah, being Matango.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was still kind of a new item.
It does show its, at least from a modern perspective on HD TVs, it definitely shows its flaws, like, during Godzilla's first, like, main rampage through the city. There's still, like, little holes, and obviously Godzilla size is a little inconsistent as well.
Yeah, I definitely noticed on, like, his opening rampage, like the shots where he's, like, far back, it looks like Godzilla's kind of clipping out.
Yeah, and the castle, when he's approaching the castle, not only does he look a lot bigger, same with when he's like going over the mountain to the island with the kids. He looks a lot bigger, but also I'm pretty sure there's must be like a specific color that like has just been completely removed. It's probably just because there's little gaps in him, I think.
Yeah. And but that being said, I still think there's quite a few great composite shots with the Oxbury, especially with your peanuts.
Absolutely.
The peanuts I thought looked astounding.
They're very well integrated into the film.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And it helps with having not just having them be solely composited in. It helps that there were the gigantic props for them. That were like
eight
times the size. That's it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say 8 meters tall.
But no, the effects in this film I think are pretty... I wouldn't say they're peak Showa Godzilla, but I'd say they're like, this is decent. They
are very solid for their time, I would say.
Yes, I agree. And I think this film does Godzilla a favor with its effects. It even has the first burning Godzilla, going back to that. We had our very first of the burning Godzillas, which is always a warm welcome.
It was very intentional in this case.
Yeah, it's a warm welcome. But it's... Get it? Warm.
Oh my god.
Now, one thing about this film that I think is really good, talking about the effects, and this will go into the human side as well, is this film was shot at the same time as Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. They were filming both pretty much back to back and then editing them in the editing room. You even had Hiroshi Koizumi play the same character, Dr. Mirai. He appears...
Is he actually the same character?
It's the same name, same actor, they're both scientists. So I don't know if they are the same character, but he plays the same character. Does that make sense?
You're just giving me a mind-blowing revelation right here. Hold on. No way.
And then Akira Takarada and what's her name?
Yuriko Hoshi.
Yuriko Hoshi play basically the same characters, but the roles are reversed in Ghidorah. But Hiroshi Koizumi plays Dr. Mirai in both.
Wasn't it another guy instead of Takarada and Ghidorah?
No.
I'm pretty sure. Am I crazy?
So I don't think. I mean,
yeah, it's Yosuke Natsuki.
Oh, that's right, Natsuki.
Detective Shindo.
Yes, that's it.
Sorry, I'm just looking up if Hiroshi Koizumi is actually playing the same character.
Dr. Mirai.
Oh my god, he is.
Professor
Mir. Oh my god.
So
I did not know this at all.
Yeah, I will say, watching this film again, because I don't watch this film a lot, I was surprised how many references. Like, this actually felt like it was connected to other films, because everybody knows Mothra. Everybody knows Godzilla. They don't reference King Kong versus Godzilla, but it's like...
I mean, last we saw Godzilla, he fell into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Where did he come from? He was washed up on shore.
Right. So, and then everybody's like, Mothra? Like, everything about it, and there's even parallels to the original Mothra with your two main villains trying to do the exact same thing that...
what's his name?
Carl Nelson. Yeah. Did in the original Mothra. I was kind of surprised because it's like, this actually feels like a connected, like, universe. Which it's
sort of similar to King Kong vs. Godzilla in the sense with that Mothra plot of Kumayama and Torihata?
Yes.
With them sort of being like the Nelson of this film. And in the original script, them literally being characters from Roslika.
Right. Yeah. So, this film reminded me that, yes, these films are all connected. And at one point, before they kind of stopped caring and just became a factory putting this stuff out, they were putting thought into creating more closely connected films.
Oh, there absolutely is continuity in the Showa timeline. Particularly in these earlier entries. I mean, King Kong vs. Godzilla, with Godzilla's first appearance, continued on from where Rage Again ended. So.
Right, and I think a lot of people don't give the films credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. Like, people kind of just dismiss the Showa continuity as not really caring for, having actual proper continuity from the previous films. Whereas the Heisei era, that's the one that really did it right,
Totally.
Yeah, they didn't ever botch continuity at all.
Ever.
No. What are you talking about?
But, no, this film, I think, Sekizawa did outstanding. I think this is Sekizawa's prime. The mid-60s. That being... Right, exactly. That being said, however, I found this film I don't know if this is going to be where we change opinions or what. I think this movie is boring.
You see, for me, I don't know. So when I first watched this movie, I absolutely loved the entire movie whole way through. The second, this was back in like 2018, 2019-ish. The second time I watched this film was back in like, I want to say 2019 or 2020-ish. I was bored out of my mind.
This movie moves at a snail's pace for me.
But this time, for me, I think the first half, I really enjoyed the first half.
But when Godzilla comes in?
It's sort of probably around somewhere between after Godzilla shows up to around when the characters are going to Infant Island.
Mm-hmm.
That is when the movie really starts to wane for me, and it gets to its absolute worst after Mothra dies.
I agree. I don't see... I'm going to be real. When I watch Godzilla movies or like put on audio commentaries, Mothra versus Godzilla is one of the last films I'll pick. Mm-hmm. I have never liked watching this movie. This movie has always been kind of a chore for me. I don't find myself enjoying it.
You see, I think the actual first act is really strong.
I like characters. I agree. Like, I think the first...
Oh, yeah. I love Koizumi Takarada and Hoshi's characters in particular.
But and then, once Godzilla appears, I kind of check out. It kind of gets boring.
Yeah. Yeah, the drama just doesn't really go anywhere that's particularly satisfying, you know?
And I think it was Peter Hayes' brother's book pointed this out, but there are a ton of pointless subplots in this movie.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's like the
mayor.
Yeah, the mayor who disappears after his second scene.
The politician at the beginning about the whole oil field, whatever. Pointless.
Oh yeah, sorry, I meant that guy.
Yeah, no, because the only reason that is solely so they can go back.
Yeah, and Rifle's book pointed that out as well. I believe.
I think
that it's just there so that they can introduce Godzilla.
Yeah, and it's like because when they come back, everybody's nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is there's no more water. I think it was Rifle's book was like, what's the Godzilla skin? Is it skin? Is it poop?
Yeah.
What's important about it?
I've always interpreted it as Godzilla skin, and that just being like the foreshadowing of
likewise
his presence.
But nobody is like, what is it's dropped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I never understood.
I don't think it necessarily needed to. I don't know. I think it could have been. I agree that could have been handled better. Honestly, you could probably remove that politician character entirely from the script.
I feel like the script has a lot that needs tightened. I feel
absolutely.
I think the script is too loose. One of my biggest things I noticed on this rewatch is Mirai initially doesn't care at all about the reporters.
Yes, and then suddenly he's staying in a room with them together.
Yeah, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I noticed that too.
What? Why?
He didn't care at all. There's no scene sort of bridging that.
No, there's not. And I thought maybe I've nodded off and missed something here, but it was really sudden, and I'm like,
no,
what's
you're
going
absolutely
on?
Right about that.
Because then they're acting all buddy-buddy, and Takarada's character is having a casual chat with him, and I'm like, what? Sure, you guys are on the same team, but Mirai just a few seconds ago was like, I don't need to be bothered by you. It reminds me of those scenes those movies where there's that romantic tension, but the girl doesn't love the guy, and then they get intimate, and then they love each other. All of a sudden, they're perfect for each other. Except in this case, it's three people, and there's no intimate moment. It's just, get away from me. I don't want to talk to the press. To, hey, we're in a hotel room together. What?
Yeah. I don't know. There should have just been perhaps an extra scene of them with Kumayama. Could have maybe sort of helped bridge that gap.
The enemy, my enemy is my friend, or something.
Yeah, because I feel like that's what it's going for.
But it doesn't work, because then it feels like Mirai like it feels like they've always been on the same team, and it's like that's not how.
You just met these people, Miura.
So. Yeah, you haven't established anybody's team.
Yeah,
like what's going on, and then your politician doesn't matter, the mayor doesn't matter. To me, the film rushes the human characters to the point that besides your villains, none of them are as memorable as future installments.
Yeah.
And the reason
and the thing is, too, that a lot of them don't really have a lot to do by the end.
Right.
So the film is just trying to figure out what they can do after Mothra shows up.
Right, yeah. Because once they plead, there's nothing.
Their role is essentially over.
Yeah, because their whole goal was trying to get the egg. They can't get the egg back, so let's get Mothra to kill Godzilla, and then it's the Peanuts. The Peanuts are the ones that end up.
And I think part of the issue is because Godzilla killed Kumayama, or not Kumayama, killed Torahata.
Mm-hmm.
So
and Torahata killed Kumayama.
Yeah, so the antagonists of the film are dead before our second act is even over.
Yeah, and to me, the film has a narrative flaw that makes it really boring, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that there is no... To me, there feels like there's no substance to the characters. I'm going to compare it to Ghidorah. Now, I'm not going to go into detail because when we talk about Ghidorah, I want to talk about Ghidorah. I don't want to talk about Ghidorah while talking about Mothra, but Ghidorah has characters that all matter. And even by the end, they are still... There is a human plot that is being driven that is still going on. Now, Sekizawa has this plot that he does where the humans have their own story, the monsters are their own story, the humans sometimes
they're going parallel of each other, but then usually by the end is when they sort of cross each other, you know.
But in this case, the only time they cross over is when Godzilla kills your villain. Not even like near your main characters to like make them a threat. He just kills him out of his greed. Like, it's because of him. And I get the idea there because Honda was trying to show good versus evil, greed, commercialism, capitalism, brotherhood of mankind, corruption. And like, yes, that works, but it also doesn't.
On paper, it's a good juxtaposition to our protagonists, but just structurally is where it falls apart completely, with having Kumayama and Torahata's deaths in the film happen when they are and how they.
And isn't it like 3/4 way through the film? It's not even in the last act.
Yeah, no, it's before Mothra has even fought Godzilla.
So, like, by the, what would that be? Like the 60-minute
It's about like the 50-ish, I want to say. 55-ish. Yeah, something like that.
Somewhere in that time frame, your main problem
has resolved.
That we really are like trying to make the problem is resolved. And now it's the epilogue of how do you deal with Godzilla.
A remaining like 30 or so minutes, you know?
And then you have the big battle, and just when you think it's over, another one happens. It overstays. It's a lot like Ju-on in the sense I feel like the final story, the final battle in this case, is unnecessary.
Yeah. It's like I wouldn't say it's necessarily,
but it drags on. It drags on.
I'll agree with that.
If you had the Mothra larvae hatch before Mothra dies, and then Mothra dies and the larvae continue the battle like they do in Tokyo SOS, I think that's better because then there's not a clear, okay, this battle is over. Now we have to set up the next battle and then the final battle. And then the end just comes and they, the larvae float away and everybody's waving and that's it.
Yeah. Very quick ending.
It's a very quick ending. It doesn't... I get it. Godzilla's supposed to be a very strong and, difficult foe for, the Mothra larvae to handle. But I would rather have a quick battle, 2v1, than try to draw out this long, boring ending.
Mm-hmm.
I have never liked this movie. When researching it, I don't understand where people say this is one of the best in the Showa era. I really don't. Yes, its effects are good. Yes, it's got your A-list actors, and they do good in their roles. Their acting is great. I love Takarada. His charisma's there. It's amazing. Hiroshi Kozumi is always a warm welcome. Your main villains are the most memorable part of this film. Not even the main bad guy, but the side bad guy that interacts with our main characters the most is the one that's memorable. And that's because of his iconic look.
Mm-hmm. That damn mustache.
Yeah. And then you have Mothra, which... I will say this, I don't like Mothra's look. I think Mothra looks really ratty. I know she's close to death.
I mean, she is dying, so...
Yeah, but she literally looks like death. It's not as bad as Sea Monster's Mothra prop, but I don't like it for as...
Yeah, there's no cigarettes on this one.
Yeah. But, I don't see the praise this film gets. I never have. When I put in a Godzilla movie, it 90% of the time will not be a Mothra versus Godzilla. Now, I think I might want to rewatch it just so I can have another watching under my belt after researching it so much. But it doesn't. This film does not ring true to the praise it gets to me.
Mm-hmm. You see, I don't know. It's complex because there are elements of this film that I really do love, and I genuinely want to say that I like my first viewing. I absolutely love this film, adore it, whatever. But I think I really enjoyed the first 30 to 40 minutes ish.
Mm-hmm.
That I thoroughly enjoy. After that point, it's just the human plot just. There's a drive in the drama that is just lost. It's largely because our main antagonistic force gets killed too early on, but it's not entirely because of that, I'd say. I just feel that these are really strong leads, but they're not given enough to do.
Yes, I agree. And I honestly feel like the best written characters in this film are the infant islanders and the peanuts. I think their story, even though it's a very minuscule part of this movie, is the most interesting. I like the infant islanders the most because of the clear Hondaism in their characters.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, all that I'm really given is what the actors can give.
Mm-hmm.
Which you have great actors. So you're getting a good show for what you're given, but what you're given is not a lot.
Yeah. And I also think that while I really like the main rampage, the military scenes are serviceable at best.
Yeah.
They kind of just they almost feel more like padding prior to the main fights rather than all that of an interesting part of the film. Right. I get why they're there, but
and it's it's cool to see the tie back to King Kong versus Godzilla using electricity, but there's also not this buildup of like prepping for it. It's just like, boom, we're out. And then as soon as Godzilla obliterates everybody, they're like, oh, we're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave.
Like, again, I get why it's in the film, and it does have its role to play to building up the need for Mothra as well, and just how much of a problem Godzilla is.
Right.
But at the same time, I just don't think they're all that exciting of sequences.
The best sequence within the military, to my opinion, is the scene that was taken out of the Japanese version but used in the American version, which was when the American military ships were firing. Now, granted, it's kind of lacking because it's, land versus sea. There's not a lot going on, but I thought that was the best effects-wise.
Really? I'd completely disagree, because I thought it just looked like they took the Godzilla suit to a beach and just had him walk around and set explosives.
I think specifically the missile launching looked
great. The missile, like the ships look good, but the actual shots of Godzilla,
it's better than the hand puppet. It's better than the hand puppet.
I'll agree with that. But from the Japanese book, I sort of tried using Google Translate to give me a rough idea on what it said, because I have this Godzilla vs. Mothra book that has a little bit of coverage on the American cuts for all the Toho Showa films that have significant differences for some reason. There's that in there. So there's a little bit on that. And from the sounds of it, it kind of sounded like these were just not necessarily intended for a specific scene. But these were more additional shots that were filmed. From the sounds of it, that could be poor translation.
And Toho just gave them and said, if you want to use these, use them.
Yeah, at least the Godzilla shots. I don't know about the American military.
The military stuff, I don't know if the human scenes were, but I know the ships were Japanese.
Yeah. They look like Super Eye effects in the Toho pool.
The whole story behind that scene is really weird, because never has Toho offered a company deleted scenes they can put in. This is the one time this happens. Other than that, it's them going in and doing it themselves. And this wasn't like this was Universal's second film. This was AIP doing it, and it was their first Godzilla film. So it's like, why did Toho give them this? It makes no sense with their track record, and it never happened again.
Yeah, it's odd, and particularly given the look of these, the shots of Godzilla walking and missiles exploding to the side of him. That sort of, to me, the way it's shot feels more like something that's shot for marketing. Rather than to be an actual scene in the film.
It could have been a trailer shot. Because I know there was quite a few things shot for a trailer that never ended up in the actual movie quite a few times for a lot of Toho films, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole different Mechagodzilla, fake Godzilla transformation in the Mechagodzilla trailer.
Now, I did read somewhere that the reason they probably cut it from the Japanese version was because at the time, the idea of American soldiers and military weapons was kind of a picky subject because of all the treaties that had been made post World War II in Japan with America. It was best to leave it out. But that still doesn't answer why America got it. And it wasn't featured on any Japanese release of Godzilla or of Mothra versus Godzilla at all.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it was to appeal to the rather patriotic country you yourself live in. So
yeah, but at this time, it still wasn't typical practice for Japanese films to be brought to America because Toho wasn't even producing international dubs for another 2 years. And this wasn't a co-production like Invasion of Astro Monster. So it just doesn't make sense to me why it was set up the way it was.
Oh, there's almost definitely some information missing here, at least on the Western side.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a proper explanation in the Japanese fandom. Who really knows? But yeah, it's odd. I mean, it's kind of cool seeing this scene though, because I'd actually never watched the scene in full before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd seen clips of like the first few shots of Godzilla getting shot at, but I'd never actually seen the full clip. Mm-hmm. And it's always fun to see Godzilla tumble over a bit, I suppose.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that a bit, one thing that I think is both a positive and a negative for me was the Ifukube soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it's Ifukube.
Potential
it's great.
Sacrilege coming up.
So like it's not bad at all because it's Ifukube. I think what he did with the Mothra music specifically was astounding. Sacred Springs is the one that the Peanuts sing in the very...
It's a brilliant song.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I love it. But to me, the soundtrack also never really slows down. I feel like in most of the scenes, there's music playing, and it's also just your typical Ifukube. Like, besides there's one piece of music from it that stands out, and I can just remember it because of, I think it's when Mothra's flapping her wings at Godzilla, and it's a shot of Godzilla's feet walking. And it's that motif. That's what I think of when I think of Mothra versus Godzilla. But it's not like King Kong versus Godzilla, where it's immediately, for me, it's iconic with the appearance of Godzilla. That dun 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 dun. This one's a little more sporadic with its main themes, and then I think if Ifukube not just continue going higher from here, but I don't know, there was something about it that just, it didn't hit like 54, 62, or the follow-up Godzilla film to this one.
It's interesting. I don't know. I don't really take any issue with the music in this film. I really enjoy the main Godzilla theme, Sacred Springs, and all the tracks sort of sprinkled throughout. I will agree there's, outside of Sacred Springs, there's not really any like major like standout track apart from that. Like Mysterians caught my attention because of how much the music in that added to the suspense of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Was Matango scored by Ifukube? I don't remember.
I don't believe so.
No, because I was going to say that if it was, then Matango was different, but never mind, I suppose. Yeah, no, I don't really take any issue with the music at all.
Fair. Now, one thing I also need to point out is Honda actually ignored Ifukube's recommendation for a scene where Godzilla's head is over a hill, as the principal's like screaming, the children, save the children." There was no music there because Ifukube said this scene doesn't need music. And then Honda went and took one of his songs from King Kong vs. Godzilla and just pasted in there. And during the showing, Ifukube turned and looked at Honda, and Honda just sunk in his chair and was like, "Sorry, I'm the director." Which I thought was funny, but it adds to the point that Honda always went above and beyond to do what he thought was best, which I do respect greatly. Because he even went back and like adjusted the script a bit for the final draft, what it became.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say it's Yuriko Hoshi's plea to the Native Islanders, but I'm pretty sure it's a different scene that apparently wasn't in the script at all. I'm pretty sure I read.
Yeah, and I know part of that also was just Honda's push for the Brotherhood of Mankind. He did a lot of that.
Yeah.
That was kind of his big thing, was pushing that, which I can appreciate greatly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what helps set this movie apart from like King Kong versus Godzilla and a lot of his other films. Is I think the Brotherhood of Mankind is really well shown through the Infant Islanders and Japanese mainlanders. Mm-hmm. I think that is a very good dynamic to show this idea, this concept.
Oh yeah, no, I'll agree with that. But speaking of Infant Island, that one thing that actually did kind of bother me was the Infant Island set, the location.
Really?
Yeah, like the caves, like the actual cave area where the Infant Islanders are staying, that looked fine. But after they left that to find the peanuts, that sort of area just made the island feel very small.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on that. It's like the island doesn't feel as big as it looks.
No.
And they quickly switch out of their protective gear to regular, like, nice clothing.
Yeah,
like,
that too.
It, like, these three love jumping ahead and, like, just doing stuff. And it's like, why are we here now?
Pretty dangerous for a scientist to take off his protective gear. He should know better.
He shouldn't also be with strangers in a hotel room, but he did that too.
That's true. Yeah, but he was the one who goddamn thought of, like, cleansing them of radiation.
This is true. Sorry, I had to yawn there. This is true. Yeah, I don't know. Listening to Steve Reifel and Edgar Jazeski talk about this movie, they constantly praise it and claim it's one of the greatest of the franchise.
I mean, I believe Reifel calls it the last great Godzilla film in his 98 book, Japan's Favorite Monster.
He does.
Yeah.
And for me, I just can't see it. Like, I can't help but think there are some great follow-ups that surpass Mothra versus Godzilla. I think it's a good follow-up to King Kong versus Godzilla because it didn't go the route of comedic funny stuff. It has a good balance between its comedic, its dark stuff. The balance of themes in this movie are really well done.
Yeah.
That is the thing I think Sekizawa should have most praise for in this, is his balance and themes work really good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I'll agree with that.
Was there any... I feel like I'm going to keep going in circles if I continue speaking, so I don't want to get too much stuck in that. Was there anything you wanted to bring up? I mean, I've got like one last thing I could mention, but it's very minute.
I don't know. I was just going to ask, compared to, say, King Kong vs. Godzilla, what are your thoughts on this film in comparison to that, since you brought it up earlier?
Yeah. So upon my rewatches and finally watching the original Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla, I grew to appreciate that movie a lot more. And I was going to ask if we could rank the Godzilla films right now, so like we could put an idea for where we put these. I like King Kong vs. Godzilla more than Mothra vs. Godzilla. I think its characters are a little more memorable. I think the kaiju fighting is a little better. I do prefer this Godzilla design, but I could find myself rewatching King Kong vs. Godzilla more than rewatching Mothra vs. Godzilla. I've never found myself really interested in Mothra vs. Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say about it?
So for me, in comparison to King Kong vs. Godzilla, I think the way the film starts, I prefer. I think this is one of my favorite first acts to any of the Godzilla films, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it just loses steam way earlier than it should, at around that 40 to 50-ish minute mark or so. So while I love that first act, and I don't think the rest of the movie is horrible, I think it's watchable. I think King Kong vs. Godzilla is more consistently entertaining. I think the effects are pretty even in King Kong and Mothra versus, but I would say the Godzilla sort of, and Mothra moving very fast within the main fight during certain shots, sort of like Raids Again, as well as the pretty heavy usage of the puppet in certain scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that does hold the fight back a little bit for me. Plus, I don't think the final fight is as exciting as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely a step down from Mothra versus Godzilla. Mm. Or King Kong versus Godzilla, I mean.
I think our villains are some of the best in the series, though. Like, Kumayama especially is just... If only his mustache was longer. If only he could twirl it.
I feel like they're not... I wouldn't say they're the best, but I think they're some of the most iconic.
Mm-hmm. They're some of the best. Like, just when I think Godzilla villains, Kumayama and Sahara, after, like, all the aliens, if we're just speaking solely human villains before this series really went full sci-fi,
mm-hmm.
they're sort of some of the first I think of.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, maybe Dr. Mifune I would put above that, but like not there's not many more I would.
Yeah, Mifune is a fair answer, I'd say.
So let's go ahead and rank the films, and then we can go ahead and conclude this if you think this is an adequate place for us to stop our 5th Godzilla movie.
Alrighty. Where would you rank Mothra vs. Godzilla alongside all the other films?
So here's what I'm going to put. I'm going to do 54 Raids Again, King Kong versus and Mothra versus. So I would put 54 as number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to hear my opinions on these movies, go listen to those episodes. I don't feel reiterating. Yes. I don't feel like reiterating what I've already said. Followed up with King Kong versus Godzilla. Followed by Mothra versus Godzilla with Godzilla Raids Again at last place.
Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to have to agree with you pretty much completely here. But I will say, in the past, I've said that I like Mothra vs. Godzilla more. I will say I think I think there's room for it to switch around. I do genuinely think there is some room for it to switch around, because I don't like King Kong vs. Godzilla a terrible amount more than this film. I still do enjoy this film overall. So, like, I don't think they're terribly far apart.
Mm-hmm.
But I would, at this current point in time, I would place King Kong versus above Mothra verse.
Okay. Well, in that case, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty good. Usually I like to keep it between an hour and 2 hours. I feel like that's a decent runtime. We've talked about it for a little longer than the movie itself. I'm sure if you cut out the opening, it's about on par with how long the movie is. So, I also want to point out Godzilla doesn't show up until about a little past 30 minutes in this movie, which is over a third way through the film.
I mean, there were later Godzilla appearances in the Showa era. So.
True. I mean, Godzilla in Terror of Mechagodzilla doesn't show up until almost 50 minutes in a...
Yeah, same with Ibra.
Yeah. But I think my point I was making here is it just goes to show again. Showa again.
Shut up. Continue.
That when these films were being made, they were not thinking about, we need to have the monsters be the central focal point, because they shouldn't be. It is supposed to be characters, and I think part of why I find these characters so lacking is the fact that they don't carry a lot, and when the monsters come in, they still don't carry.
Yeah, they become really sidelined almost.
And it already takes away. It takes away from what these films were supposed to be, which were dramas driven by human characters, with the monsters being what your final fight's supposed to be.
Our big force setting the events, setting the dramas into motion.
Correct. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to go ahead and say, Rex, why don't you link yourself so people know where to find you, if they even care, because we just said blasphemy on one of the most critically well-acclaimed Godzilla movies. And quite frankly, I was expecting you to go full film snob and be like, this is peak cinema.
Honestly, as much as I wanted to, I genuinely wanted to, I don't think I honestly can.
Going in, I knew my opinion wasn't going to really change. The only thing is, I think I appreciated the opening, 15 minutes a bit more, because I liked the characters a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wanted to be grasped in the same way I was back in 2018 or 19, but I really, after that first 30 or 40 minutes, I really wasn't.
Mm-hmm. So,
and that's disappointing.
But
I did at least watch this for November 3rd.
This is true. It was your Godzilla Day celebration.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to see your honest stuff, go ahead and link yourself. At least they know you're honest. You're not going to hide behind a opinionated, gatekeepy. I feel like this is an example of us being very true and real. We're not.
Yeah,
we're not going to make up stuff just to make it up and follow the crowd.
No, sorry. This is the greatest short film ever made because the rifle guy, the gun guy said so.
The gun guy, James Gunn.
No, what's his name? Mr. Rifle.
Mr. Rifle.
Yeah,
we like Steve Rifle. We do.
Yeah. His book is good. Books, I should say.
And audio commentaries.
I need to listen to more first.
I agree. So go ahead and link yourself, Rex. Where can the lovely people find you?
Yes, no more stalling. Well, I am Xeno. You can find me on YouTube, Xeno, on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, and finally on Instagram as Rex_Xeno. You can also read some of my writing at the Tokusatsu Network.
And please definitely check those out. Rex does some great work. As for me, you can find me on YouTube at ET13 Productions, on Twitter at ET13 Productions, on Instagram where I post my action figure photography at ET13 Productions. If you want to locate my my personal socials, I'll let you figure that one out. I don't hide it, but I'm not going to link it. If you want to see what's going on in my mind, you can find out where to go. Going back to the beginning of this episode, I said that Rex was going to do the outro. So now, Rex, go ahead.
Oh no! Oh no! Uh-oh. Stinky, what's the outro? You should have prepped me on this earlier.
I told you. I said, Rex, you're going to do the outro. That was over.
I thought you were kidding.
No. When have I ever joked? I've never joked a day in my life.
CC, the hour before we started with the, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Kaiju Conversation.
We didn't do that. There's a whole hour of just nonsense before I even said, hey, welcome everybody back to a brand new episode.
I wonder what could be in that nonsense.
Not what I just said. I said it in recording. You're going to do it.
Bruh.
Go ahead. You've edited it enough, and you've heard me say it enough.
I have a very bad memory.
If I give you the first sentence, do you think you can go for it?
I can give you some of it.
I'll give you the first sentence. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts our ratings and helps us get recommended to more people like you. Recently, we have been review bombed, and we're sitting at a solid 11 one-star reviews. So if you guys could help us out by going to Apple Podcast and leaving us a 5-star review, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm actually checking right now. Yes, we still are sitting at the 3.0 with 22 ratings, so please help us out.
If you wanna stop laughing. Stop laughing, you're making it worse. You're making my brain melt even more.
If you don't have an Apple device,
you can listen to us.
I don't blame you. I don't
blame you because I don't have one, except I actually do have an Apple device. You can rate us on... I think you can currently rate us on Spotify. What was the other thing?
Oh my god. Here. I'll do it. If you don't have an Apple device, I don't blame you. I don't. You can now review us on Spotify. It's a brand new feature. Currently, we have no review, so go give us a 5-star review on there. If you don't have a way to review us on either of those platforms, you can tweet us and follow us on Twitter at
Kaiju _CONV.
You said Kaiju.
Kaiju. Shut up.
That's not the Twitter handle.
Shut the hell up.
At KAIKU.
At KAIGKU underscore.
At underscore?
No, I did not say at underscore. I did not say at underscore.
VERS.
I did not say that. You are gaslighting me.
If you don't have Twitter, you can like us on Facebook.
Like us on Facebook.
Or follow us on
Instagram.
If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word, you know the drill.
That is exactly what I said.
Just give Rex a 5-star for trying.
You shut up, you condescending.
We will review any of your 5-star reviews on air for everyone to hear because we greatly appreciate it. We also have merchandise on Teespring. It's not the greatest. Eventually, we'll have more stuff. We
don't even have the shirts.
No, we don't have the shirts. We should have the shirts, though. But definitely keep an eye out. Maybe eventually we'll have something on there.
Yeah, if you want to talk to me or this crazy gaslighting gatekeeper, then you can check out our Discord, Kaiju Conversation. Currently, there was a conversation about the Heisei Gamera trilogy earlier, and Gauss and what it would be like to see a 2D anime Gamera movie, which could be interesting.
This is true. And I also wanted to point out that if anybody wants to leave us feedback on an episode, like I said, you can email us or do anything, and we will read that on air as well. We've had members of our Discord server send us messages. We've had emails. And it's honestly great to have you guys interact with us because that's something that I like doing. I'm pretty sure Rex does too.
Mm-hmm.
And we've linked it. We've mentioned it a lot, but you should also not to forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload there. Sometimes you can find YouTube exclusives. We have an interview.
And as mentioned before, we have some upcoming little mini bonus of sorts about the video games.
We do. And we even have an interview with MechaGodzilla designer Jared Kerchevsky. I think I said his name wrong.
Kerchevsky?
Kerchevsky.
Oh, yeah. We're both butchering it.
And definitely check those out. And a huge thanks to our Redditor?
Ew. Don't call me that.
Our editor.
Don't call me that. I'm offended by that.
Thanks to our editor, Rex, for editing all of these episodes. Like I said before, please check his stuff out. His links can be found in the description below. Mm-hmm. I hope you've enjoyed this mess of an outro. But like I said, give Rex a 5-star for trying.
Oh, I hate you.
And as always, please remember, everybody, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Ciao.